Everybody. I'm so proud of you getting here early. I hope you have your coffee. They made me leave mine back there, but I want it. They actually didn't make me. I could probably grab it, but I gotta say, Jeff said that I'm a good friend of his. Actually, he is my 911 call. He's the guy I call when I'm like, guess what I'm about to do? What should I do? He is wise, words of wisdom, and I love that guy. I hope throughout this that you guys get a minute to speak with him and kind of hear the heart behind what he does. But the idea that I'm in a room with this many people that want to come talk about loving disruption is awesome. It's awesome for our city. I mean, disruption, those are two of my favorite words. Disruption to me kind of means breaking things up and building them back better, making it better, and doing that with love. Wow, like how cool is that? So this is the room I want to be in. I'm so excited to talk to you guys today. And Jeff talked a little bit about challenge. I mean, that's pretty much one of my favorite words. I love a challenge. I love challenging other people because I think there's so much that we can be doing. So heart, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. What makes yours beat, what breaks yours, and kind of the responsibility, what comes with that. So this is my crew. I am the founder of Fabrik, and it is Fabrik, but I know you guys don't care. You don't listen to me. I can't go to dinner without like, oh, yeah, you're Dana from Fabrik. I say, yeah, Fabrik. They're like, no, Fabrik. Okay, that's fine. My poor sister comes back from dinner party. She's like, I got in a fight again, trying to tell people the name of your company. But I'm fine with it. You guys love it. I built it for you, so great. I'm glad you've renamed it, made it fancy and French. This is my crew. You know, I'm a founder and a CEO, but I'm also a mom of 4 wild banshees, as I'd call them. They are the light of my life. That's my hot husband on the right. I love him. He's programmed in my phone as the love of my life. I'm, pretty much still in love with this guy and this whole crew. Got 16 chickens, a couple fish. Well, no, probably down to 1 fish. They don't really stick around that long. Couple dogs. Daughter, friend, sister. I mean, it's busy, right? There's a lot going on. So I'm definitely not here today to talk to you about balance. Hopefully someone else will. That is not going to be me. But I am going to talk about responsibility. And, when you think about the quote that I just love, the 2 best days of your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Don't you want to know? I do. Like, I've been on a mission for a long time to figure out why in the world am I in this game? So, follow your heart. The good part, the lucky, easy part for me is I grew up the daughter of 2 starving artist hippie parents. I mean, they're both long hair, hippie, got married when they were babies. They were next door neighbors, and they just figured it all out. Our life lesson, our family culture, was if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And I didn't really all the way get that because they were artists. So I was kind of like, are you working? Are you painting in a field? And my mom's grabbing sofas off the side of the road to bring them in to redecorate them. And it was always like, this is it? But there was so much passion. It was so incredible. It was like the DNA. This first question, when I sit down to anyone that I mentor, this is what we talk about. I try to make it simple because it's a big concept, but what do you love and what does the world need? And you see right in the middle of that, there's a little heart I scribbled. That's the sweet spot. I think that's your heart. I think that's your mission. When these 2 things overlap, something unbelievable happens. And that purpose that you've been kind of seeking and searching comes to life. So how do you get there? I think it's these 2 questions. And you can come about it in any way, but at least chase the answer to that question of what do you love and what does the world need and how do you get in the middle. So what makes your heart beat? This is not a trick question. And is it selfish? Yes, it's absolutely a selfish question. What makes your heart beat? What do you love? Can you wake up in the morning you cannot wait to do and you fall asleep thinking about? If you had 2 spare hours on a Saturday, what would you do with it? What do you love, right? And what makes your heart break? What are those things that when you hear them, you want to unhear them? You want to think that they're lies. You want to think that something in the world, when someone tells you some statistic, you're like, that can't be true, because that means our world would just be a broken mess. Well, the problem is there's a lot of that in our world. And if you're waiting for somebody else to go handle that heartbreak, they're probably waiting for you to do that. So I think we got to answer both questions. When you work in my company or you go to dinner and you think you're just grabbing a glass of wine with me, this is what we're talking about. I think this kind of defines who you are. What you care about, what makes your heart beat, what do you love? And then what do you want to change? What do you want to go out there and say, I can help? You don't have to know how to do it, but I think you have to ask yourself these questions. So, shocker, what makes my heart beat? Fashion, clothing. It's not just the shirt, it's the whole experience, the shopping, every piece of it. You know, when I was a little girl, I was the girl that wallpapered my room with fashion magazines. Every new Vogue, from when I was a little girl, I still do it in my office today. It was the first thing I do in the office. I'm like, are we allowed to rip out magazines? They're like, you're the boss, I think you're allowed to do it. But I did it, and it inspires me. And I remember taping up those pages and just kind of living in that world like, God, I love this. What is that for you, right? And when you grow up with, starving artist parents, you don't have a lot of extra money. So for us, my mom made all of my clothing growing up. And I remember somebody saying, are you poor? I'm like, no, I have a personal stylist. It's unbelievable. Like the idea that we'd spend Saturdays going to Fabrik stores, not Fabrik, the actual fabric stores, and picking out zippers and buttons and come home and she'd sew it on me and like the little pin in her mouth. And I remember just turning around and it was just like, yes, I loved it. Which obviously brought me to the idea of opening a clothing store. But that just sounds so easy, right? Like when I tell people that I'm mentoring, like think back in your life, you'll know what you love by those big highlights, those timelines. But there was nothing easy about it. Today is actually, this week is my 16th birthday at Fabrik. 16 years ago, we started Fabrik. I know, isn't that awesome? Sweet 16. And the crazy part is, the reality is I love what I'm doing 16 times more than that very first day, but that very first day was so hard. I spent about a year writing a business plan, trying to get funding, banks just hysterically laughing at me, how I was gonna even open a clothing store. And finally, I was working my full-time job. I took a job on the weekends at a boutique just to make sure I wanted to do this, and then I'd go home and write this business plan. It was full hustle, full time. So I finally get to opening day, August 1st, and my whole family comes in. They're helping me like write tags and hang dressing rooms, and we have like a dream realized. When I say I stood up on that, we put we did a whole fashion show in the store. And I stood at the end of the runway and I looked out at my family and friends. We had the most incredible sales day. It was like a dream being realized. I sat in that moment and said, yes, this is it. Until I went home that night and I was gonna have my first night's sleep in a year of just grinding. I was living off coffee and no sleep, and I was like, I'm gonna sleep and tomorrow's gonna be my first day of business. And I walk in, get up, early in the morning, it's gonna be my first day, go in and look over, the windows in my store are busted out. And I just do that moment where I'm like, this cannot really be happening. When you see something, but you're like, it just can't be. Can't really believe that everything would just be really shattered that quickly. Walk into the back of my store. When I say walk in, the door was glass, it was broken, so I just walked in. There's glass, there's blood. I don't know if these guys just like barreled in or why it was so dramatic, but blood, glass. And when I say things were gone, it wasn't just the clothing. Only hangers were left. They took every necklace, they took every shoe, every single shoe. They took my register, they took my stereo, they took it all. They took the champagne in the water bar that we were celebrating with the night before. It was completely gone. So what do? You call your dad and you're like, what do I do? Because there's no rule book for this. I'm like, I just spent a year of my life. I spent all my money. I got a $70,000 line of credit, which I spent. I had no more anything. And I mean, that's when real heart comes into play. It's not in the easy times and the joy of like, this is fun. It's, do I have the heart to rebuild in a week what took me a year to build? And I did. My dad was like, welcome to your own business, sweetie. I don't think he laughed, but I think he knew what it really means to do something with all your heart. And I did. I rebuilt that week. I called every vendor. I said, I've got no money. Would you give me 30 days? Would you send me that inventory again and try again? And it's made my heart beat ever since. And I'm so grateful for that I caught into that moment of like, yep, this is what it is. This is what I love. I love this much that I'm willing to do it again. So heartbeat, what makes yours beat? But we got to talk about break, right? I mean, the beat part is where a lot of people, we spend our time thinking about like, what am I supposed to be doing? What's my passion? But there's another piece of this equation, like what makes it break? What statistic do you hear and you're like, please don't be true? What movie have you watched and you're like, there's no way that happens in real life? Well, for me, it was a number that I heard years ago that Atlanta is number one, leading our nation in sex trafficking, in women that are sold for sex. I'm from Atlanta. This is my home. Like, these are my girls. This is my people. Like, that cannot be true. And it just leveled me. I can't really even explain the feeling. It was just like, this is not okay with me. And I don't know what that is in your life, but I'm sure there was a moment that someone told you something, you're like, please say that that's not possible. But I didn't know what to do with it. I don't know how to like go to the streets and, put pimps in jail or even find these women. I didn't really have an idea what I was supposed to do with this heartbreak. I didn't know how to change laws. I didn't know how to do anything, but I knew it was right there and I had to do something with it. So years later, my closet broke. I know it's one of those things that I'm like, I can't believe that this is what introduced me to what would be how to fix my heartbreak and how to help this world, but my closet broke. And I was at a girlfriend's house and I'm like, I've got too much clothing. Do you think that there's a possible way? And she had like 4 bags of clothing in her car she was about to take to Goodwill. And we sat there and we're like, what if we could meet the women that we gave this clothing to? Just a regular girl, or just with a regular idea of like, what if we did this? And now we do. Free Fabrik, our nonprofit, what we do is we go into safe houses, we bring clothing that our customers donate, and we dress them. And we spend 2 hours with them, pray with them, remind them how beautiful they are. We get to hear about the power of an outfit. I mean, the 2 sprees ago, I'm sitting with the girl that I'm dressing, and she said, this is the outfit I'm gonna wear when I go back and get my son. Like it's so small. It's not me going out and putting pimps in jail, which I wish I could, but I was made for this. I was made to use the clothing to help the heartbeat and to hear their stories and to give them confidence. And the end of these days, every woman says they're not gonna do this. They're like, I'm not gonna do the fashion show at the end of the spree. And at the end of the spree, every one of those women does the fashion show, and they feel that moment of confidence, that power of an outfit, that armor, to wear that outfit to their first ever interview. I mean, this is what we get to do with this. So, heartbreak, right? What is it? What's yours? It's there. So how do we tie this together? And this is a lot, but when I think about heart, right? Like Fabrik is my heart. It is. It makes me so happy. It makes me get up in the morning and just run into work. But how can you expand it? Right? Who would have thought that I could have had a fashion company that is intertwined with sex trafficking and also intertwined with abandoned babies? Like those things don't go together, When you talk about disruptive, when you talk about the fashion industry, those aren't the things that come to your mind at first. So how do they get to go together? Because they can, and in your world, they can too. You know, when we expanded into the community and expanded our Fabrik heart into free Fabrik, there was that itch for like, what's next? So I drew another heart that was even bigger outside. My husband and I went on a mission trip in Haiti right after the earthquake years ago, and there wasn't really anywhere to stay, so we were staying in an orphanage, and at the nighttime, in the day, we would go down and be with these incredible, sweet babies that just qualled up to you. But at night, when we fell asleep, you fell asleep to these babies crying. They weren't even really crying, they were just kind of like whimpering. It was just arresting what it did to our heart, and it changed us. And luckily for me, you know, God put the same thing in my husband and I's heart, and on the bus that day as we're going into the village, like we're adopting, right? He's like, yeah, we absolutely are. And our daughter Asher is part of our family because of that. But what else, right? Like, you can't stop there. It gets so beautiful. Asher is our clothing line now at Fabrik, and the proceeds of that line go to abandoned babies. How could all this be woven together? It sounds so difficult, it's so easy. And that's what I think about when I think about what is it for you? Like, I hope today, if I could give you all a blank sheet of paper and you can just draw a heart and write what you love in there. You might know it. You might already know what that one thing is that makes your heart beat so fast, what you love. So put it in there. But there might be 40 things, and you might be still figuring that out. But then draw a heart around that. Expand it. Like, what in your community, what is something you see every day that you shouldn't turn away from? Again, I'm telling you, you think someone else is handling it. They're not. They're waiting on you to. It's up to us. We can do it. We can do something so small that becomes something so big. And then go bigger. The last piece, go bigger. What about the world? It's our world. It's one big old world. What out there can you not turn your back from? When all of this comes together, it is something so magical. I believe that it's purpose. I really do. You know, I believe purpose is found when what you love, that engine, that soul, that thing in your heart starts beating so fast, when what you love overlaps with what the world needs. How cool if you could live in that space. And I know so many people that do. And this was, I want to say almost by accident. I wasn't intentional about making this happen. But when I look back over my last 20 years and I see how it did, I feel a responsibility to share that you can set it up this way. You can start with that loving what you do. You can start with that piece and then build the other pieces around it. So I just want to thank you guys. I want to challenge you guys today to really take some time. Imagine what would happen if we all just got really excited about what we did, really intentional, but then folded in all those things that have been ticking. This is not hard. You know this. And what I would say as my one big piece of advice, when you get that piece of paper and you're like, I don't know what to write, call your wise counsel. And if you're saying, I don't have a wise counsel, yes, you do. Those people that don't say, oh yeah, you're so great, everything's perfect. The people that challenge you and know who you are and know your heart, call them and ask them, what do you think I love? What do I talk about that breaks my heart? But please put it on paper, because it's a big responsibility, and I can't wait to see what we could do if everybody starts to weave these together and gets right in that mission and figures out why. We're here. We've got 24 hours in a day. We don't know how many years in one life. Let's do something incredible with it. Thank you, guys. Love y'all.